Tale,
other question is that
okay, watch this video.
If you were active enough, wouldn't have this problem. You'd have checked the people. You heard him say that some people don't even know that this act exists, and it's been there since 1963.
Okay, Beatrice, first of all, based on the question you've asked me, I want all of us to join to thank the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. After 63 years, because he's committed, Section 2 of the Rent Act says that a rent commissioner should be appointed. And the rent commissioner is responsible to ensuring that the law is enforced, the law is applied, and people are educated to conform with the law. After 63 years, the visionary legendary president has acted and done what must be done. For me.
Yes. So would you kindly answer the question that the rent control has been very weak?
First of all, it was weak because 63 years, the person to take charge to make the law work was not there.
Okay, but until the president came, you were still there and we're having this problem. Why did you have to wait for the president?
I was appointed 2 months ago, if you care to know. I'm saying that after my appointment, it tells you there's a direction now. First, there has been rent control 63 years without a commissioner appointed. And that law, the only person who is supposed to sit and empowered and included by the powers of the law, the rent commissioner. 63 years ago, there has never been a commissioner. And that tells you that it cannot be enforced, because if you take the person who was in charge of rent control or the chief rent officer, his responsibility was to take charge of adjudicating issues, and he was in charge of cases. The law in its perspective, in its whole entirety, there wasn't any person to take charge. And the law was clear in Section 2. Appoint a commissioner. The president has invoked that. That is why today, over 60 years, have you ever heard rent issues being talked about like this before? Because there's a commissioner who is working within the vision of the president. And the president is saying that the law has to work.
The point I'm making is when I say that the rent control has been there even before the president made the pronouncement,
yes.
I'm not talking specifically about your appointment.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm saying that you admit that the rent control has been very weak and ineffective.
I admit 100%, Beatrice. Honestly, before I was appointed, I have seized the opportunity to critique the activities of rent control now by that time. Those who are seeing me today, who has followed me, now I'm one of the critique of the rent control department of Ghana. And what the tenant union gentleman is talking about is not far from the truth. But I hope and believe that there's a new direction. And that direction is going to put us to speed. Today, I'm happy. I'm glad to see the move and the change and the reforms that is coming. And to me, trust me, Beatrice, I want to hold forth, because I will take the responsibility now, today, as a rent acting commissioner of the ineffectiveness of rent control. I would admit it. Yes, and I want everything to be geared towards me. And I'll carry that cross and make sure I'll redirect and reform with respect to the vision of the president, which now he says, I have appointed a commissioner to act, and I expect the commissioner to enforce and make the law work. One of my responsibilities with the rent control is to ensure, as Mr. Reverend talked about, no education. It's true. Not that landlords are disobedient. Today, let me confess. When I started talking about the rent issues, my first directive was try to get the rent card, which was Section 20 of the Rent Act, and it was repeated in Section 5 of the PND's Law 138/1986. And that law was clear that within 1 week, if you just rent your property out, you must give a tenancy rent card. The rent card was to do transactional recordings, different from the tenancy agreement. And today, I can tell you, when the other directive was given, people are joining queue across the entire country, rent control, to go and seek for the rent card. Why? Because a commissioner who want to look at the rules of the game and to make sure that you can guide landlords and tenants to obey the laws is now at work.
So the point you made is that it's not that the landlords want to be disobedient.
No, they are ignorant.
You think that they are ignorant.
They are ignorant.
So let's assume that they are ignorant of Act 220.
Yes.
But they know that you're not supposed to be doing transactions in foreign currency. And yet we still have some landlords who are charging in foreign currency. Are you saying that they are ignorant of that as well?
I don't want to speak to that, and which I wouldn't want to speak to that, because it's not my remit to talk about the dollarization of the city. It's not my angle. My angle is clearly rent issues. So I want us to stay put on rent matters. Issues of dollarization is up to the Bank of Ghana and other agencies responsible for ensuring that people don't use. Be as it may, when I came, I've written a letter to the Bank of Ghana governor that, fine, so far as I am going to help to talk about rent issues, I'm also too happy when people are charging in dollars. It is not my work at all. But I have written a letter today to the office of the governor to help us, the rent control, work together with the governor and the Bank of Ghana to ensure when we start the enforcement, which I say after 6 months, 7 months, when we have done engagement, because as the Reverend said, we need to do engagement. We need to do sensitization. Let people understand the law. They even have to pay rent taxes, which they don't.